Hi everyone, welcome back to Forward Therapy. Today I want to talk a little bit about ECU tendinitis, so tendinitis of the extensor carpi ulnaris muscle in the wrist, because it can be a little bit challenging to treat and to be going through. So hopefully this video will be helpful. I'm just going to give kind of some tips or things that I generally will do with these patients, and hopefully it will be helpful for you. So let's dive right in. So with most repetitive strain injuries, I usually have patients do about 1 to 2 weeks of trying to rest it a little bit more. So I will usually set them up with a wrist brace. Now this is not a great example because I would prefer to make a custom wrist brace for them that puts their wrist in slight extension and slight ulnar deviation just to take stress off of that tendon. So if we put it on a little bit of slack, it does generally help to let that tendon get a little bit of rest. Now, I don't like to rest them for more than a week or two before I start stretching, reloading, all that kind of stuff. But if they're really flared up, I do find that forcing them to just chill for a couple of weeks can be helpful. And then I do usually recommend bracing at night until symptoms are starting to get more under control, just because when people sleep, they get in all these, weird positions. And so I think that that can be super helpful. But again, I'm not encouraging patients to brace for months or weeks at a time. It's usually just a couple of weeks. And then I want us to start getting out of the brace more so that we can get more active and start reloading. Because we know that tendons like a little bit of stress. It's just that just right amount, right? So if we can get their pain down a little bit in phase 1 of pain management, then they'll be more successful with doing exercise. And that is generally helpful for what I've found. I am also a big believer in self-care strategies. Like, I genuinely believe that as OTs, PTs, a big part of our job is to teach people the skills and the tools that they need to support themselves, right? Because tendinitis, repetitive strain injuries, these types of injuries often take months, even a year, sometimes longer to fully resolve. And therapy is not like, we're not hand-holding, right? We're not going to see them through the entire case of this injury, most likely, and really that's not good care. So we want to give them the tools that they need to manage these conditions on their own and be successful. So I always really encourage people to be doing things like pain management, edema management, using things like heat and ice, self-massage, all these kind of strategies that, while they're not a fix, and we don't want to just do manual treatment in our sessions, that kind of stuff obviously is not going to be very successful, even though it feels good. But that's something that they can really empower themselves to be doing at home. Really, I think that that is a huge part of our role as OTs, PTs, hand therapists. I think we need to help our patients be empowered to help themselves too, because therapy is something you do, not a place you go, right? Like, you need to be able to continue these strategies when you're not in the clinic with me. So I always encourage, like, try heat, try ice, what makes you feel better, try breathing while you're doing these things, settle your nervous system a little bit. Let's do things at home like massaging some of the forearm muscles if that feels really good and helpful, just to loosen things up and bring some pain relief to yourself. I think those are all really helpful tools that they can use. So definitely educate them on that. The other really important piece of repetitive strain injuries, tendinitis, all of that, is talking through activity modification, ergonomics, posture. All of these things are so crucial because we can't just look at the wrist in isolation, right? This obviously happened for a reason. There was potentially poor postures, excessive forces, or repetitive movements that probably all contributed to this injury happening. So we want to help the person avoid these movements and postures so that they have less pain, but we also want them to get to the point where they're preventing these conditions from happening again in the future. And so really focusing in on posture and really focusing in on ergonomics, and do you have a good setup with the activities that you're doing? Let's look at some of the factors that cause this in the first place, but also how can we adapt some of your activities so that we give a little bit of less stress to the tissue. So talking through, avoiding, when we lift things, avoiding ulnar deviation, right? Like when we think about picking up pots and pans, we tend to lift like this, and that is going to really stress this out. So are you able to, do like a two-handed lift, or are you able to lift from underneath with an oven mitt, or just finding other ways of doing these activities that makes it less stressful. So I always try to encourage people, I want you to use your hand. Like, I'm not asking you to not use your hand, but can you be smarter about it in the sense that you're putting less stress on the tissue so that by the end of the day, that proverbial cup that you have of energy is not overflowing. We want to preserve as much energy as possible. So we want to stress that tissue less. So if you're not talking about activity modification with your patients, and you're not talking about posture and ergonomics, you're really missing out on like 50 to 70% of the battle, to be honest. And then for exercises, depending on what phase they're in, if they're ready to do some stretching, we definitely want to do some gentle stretching of the ECU tendon if that feels okay. If there's somebody that's hypermobile, obviously you're going to not do very much stretching, but sometimes the wrist will get really stiff because they've been in pain for so long. So doing a little bit of gentle stretching can be helpful. I do find that active motion is also a really good way to do some stretching. And then I usually encourage isometrics from a pretty early time to put low load stress on the tendon. So with ECU, we're thinking about extending and slightly ulnarly deviating the wrist. So it should be sort of a slight diagonal motion. With an isometric, that's very subtle. Like, you can't really tell what direction I'm even putting force in, but you want to feel it all along this zone. And you can teach people this is pretty light. You don't need to do all of your muscle power here. That's probably too much, right? But maybe you're starting with like a 2 out of 10, just to the point where you feel a little bit, but not pain. I always recommend doing isometrics resting on a surface like an armrest, because if you don't, a lot of times people will start to use their biceps. So just rest the forearm down and then do a little bit of this isometric equal opposite motion. If they do really well with that over time, you can progress to things like eccentric weights, so lowering a weight down, lifting back up. I'm a big fan of rubber band stabilization as well, as they get less painful. So putting a rubber band around the fingers and opening and closing, big fan. But again, a lot of postural work, proximal stabilization. So I tend to do a lot of chest opening stretches. I tend to do a lot of things like retraction stretches where we're getting the shoulder blades working, and then I'll have them do different variations of proximal stabilization. So oftentimes I'll start with like prone exercises, doing things like prone T's and B's, those kinds of motions, maybe doing like wall slides and lift offs, that kind of movement. Those are just kind of my go-tos that I find that people are successful with, but every patient is different, right? So if you can get them to do a lot of rowing, external rotations, these are all great movements that you can kind of work on, maybe like lawnmower pulls, that kind of movement. Just some suggestions. I'm realizing as I'm going through this that this is a lot of information, and that I might make a part 2 for this, because I think I'm going to wrap this video up now. But I do think that this is a good starting point, and this is more of just like an informal kind of like chat that I'm trying to elicit between therapists. And so hopefully you find this helpful. I would love to hear what your go-tos are for ECU tendinitis, because it is one of those like sometimes a little bit challenging ones to treat. So comment below if you have any other go-to tips. I think I'm gonna make a second part of this video because I still have other pearls to talk about, and I don't want to make this video that long. But if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.